You're mad, Walter. She's been planning that for 20 years, and now I gotta follow it. Thank you, everyone. Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you all with me. Just to start off, for those of you who don't know me, I grew up like many Kama'aina. I'm the oldest of three boys, born and raised on Oahu. My mother, Marilyn, is from Medford, Oregon. She came to Hawaii after she met my father and worked as a nurse, first at Kapi'olani and then at Kaiser Hospital. She worked in the NICU, which is where they care for the most premature babies that need services in the incubators. I remember going to visit her one time and looking inside. And the thing that I really remember about my mother's work as a nurse is, she really did have the nurse's touch. She was so good at bringing a calming presence to these very distressed parents who were in maybe the worst time of their lives, trying to care for their vulnerable newborns who were having a hard time and they had to separate from in the hospital. I'll never forget that, it really was her job. She made me realize it was her job to help people. That was her job, to help people. And it worked. Well, one time we were at the mall when I was a kid, and a lady randomly came up to us. And Mom, I don't know if you remember this story. She gave you a hug, and they started talking. And there was a little toddler running around. The toddler was the preemie baby that she had cared for 4 or 5 years earlier. And the mother remembered her and came up and thanked her. And that was really the thing that I remember and took away from that, is that when you help people, you can make an impact. And it's a very rewarding thing to be able to do. My father, Adrian, grew up as the second youngest of 9 kids. He worked construction. I remember when I was a young kid, I used to try and get up early in the morning before the sun came up so I could catch him before he went to work. He'd work long hours, a lot of times on the weekends. He'd come home at the end of the day tanned and tired and dirty. Us boys, we're 3 boys, we wanted to be around him all the time. And he really provided for us. And he was generous with us, very disciplined, but also generous. On the weekends, he used to take us to Chinatown, to the fish market. Or we would go buy Chinese roast pork. And if we were well behaved, which was rare, he would buy us spam musubi and passion orange. I remember that on the weekends. We'd come home together. We lived in a big extended family where all the brothers and sisters and cousins were all together. We weren't rich, but we had everything we needed. We lived in a community. I remember playing out in the yard and out on the street with the cousins until dark. In the summertime, the whole family would go out camping. On the weekends, we'd go to church or to the beach. We had a great life. And that whole community really, in Hawaii, your family ties and your community make you who you are. And that had a huge impact on me. I never forgot that, and it was something I wanted my kids to be able to experience when they came. After I graduated from high school in St. Louis, in Honolulu, I went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And between sloughing off and working and going to Kewalos to bodyboard and a little bit of studying, I got incredibly lucky and I met my amazing wife, Ku'ulani. How about a nice round of applause for her again? After I met Ku'u, things really started to look up for us. Eventually, we moved to the East Coast to work and to continue school. But when it was time to raise a family, we decided to come home and raise our kids here because, again, we wanted them to grow up the way we did. But what we didn't realize is how incredibly hard that actually was going to be. I came back for law school, we had our son, and we really struggled when we came back. It was hard to find places to live, it was hard to make ends meet, and if we didn't have the support of our family, we really wouldn't have made it. And we didn't know it then as a young family going through those troubles, but we weren't alone. That's experienced by so many families all across the state. And it has all sorts of implications that I didn't even realize. When I first ran for office in 2014, I remember knocking on doors in my neighborhood, in the community, and I came across an elderly couple, Richard and Audrey. And they were talking about really how dejected they were, that they had worked their whole lives, saved up, played by the rules, to be able to enjoy their golden years around their family and their grandkids. And they were so sad to explain to me that they only got to see their grandkids when they came for 1 or 2 weeks during the holidays to visit because they had moved away. This is not right. That's part of why I got involved in office. Because people should deserve the right, local people have the right to stay here, raise their families, and enjoy the same lifestyle and livelihood that they grew up in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's why when I got into office, I fought hard for funding for housing construction, for infrastructure so that we could build homes, and I passed bills to crack down on illegal vacation rentals that were taking over our communities. You know, also, part of it is also having the hard conversations. You know, when you want to look out for people, sometimes you have to say things and do things that everybody knows is the case, but not necessarily everyone wants to speak up and say. Like demanding transparency from our utilities for rate increases. Like running to the problem. When our insurance industry went into crisis after the Maui wildfires, you know, I didn't just stay put. We convened, worked together with the governor's office. We convened a group of experts and advocates to try and dig in on the problem. I didn't know anything at all about the insurance industry and actuarial modeling and disaster modeling. We just learned it as we went. We convened, we worked together, and 3 weeks ago we passed a bill that the governor signed that created another option for insurance for condominiums that were really struggling. You know, to date, dozens of buildings have signed up and hundreds of residents are saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in insurance premiums. That didn't happen on purpose. It didn't happen on accident. It happened because we leaned in and we tried to address the problem. Thank you.
Get done.
So I have other remarks about how, you know, in addition to that, substantive remarks about how, you know, the next step is to convene a landlord-tenant task force to overhaul the landlord-tenant code so that we have renters' rights. We're going to talk about CDFIs on condominium deferred maintenance and working with AOAOs through insurance plans of operation. You know, all this substantive stuff, and all my people behind me are going to melt. So I'm just going to cut ahead and talk to you guys about another story I remember that I really never forget about growing up on the windward side. We used to go down, my dad used to take us down to a beach park at the end of our road, and we would catch opai. So opai are those little red shrimps that you can use for bait, or you can dry them and put them in saimin. And there were mud flats out there, and on low tide, you just had to walk out with a scoop net. All the kids in the neighborhood would go, and we would just gather opai. When we got back from the East Coast, I went down to that park where I grew up, and the opai are gone. They're not there anymore. And when I realized that, I thought about how when I brought my kids down there, I could only tell them the story about gathering opai. I couldn't show them because they were gone. And that's why I ran for office. Because someone has to step up and make sure that the Hawaii we grew up in is the Hawaii that we can show our children, that they can experience for themselves. What kind of Hawaii are we passing on to the next generation? So one of the first things we did was we required water monitoring so we could get a handle on what was going on. Then we reached out and worked on cesspool leaching, which was causing part of the problem on the windward side, but also down here in Honolulu and on Ewa, and out in Ewa. You know, it really is for me. It's just about action. You know, and it's both things. It's both making sure that we have the opai in the ocean for the kids to gather, but it's making sure that we have the grandkids here in Hawaii and not moving away so that we have someone to teach how to catch the opai.
Sir. Yes, sir.
But you know, regardless of what we do at the state level, no matter how hard we work on our priorities, like keeping people here, you know, cleaning up our environment and handing it over to the next generation, I've found that we're just really hampered by the craziness in Washington. We really need action on that to push back on this chaos. I didn't realize what Walter was thinking. And it really does make me wonder what kind of moment we're in and what kind of leadership we really need to go up there and fight for us and push back. I mean, we desperately need urgency, energy, and passion to make things happen that actually help us. You know, like repealing these crazy tariffs that we pay, not the foreign countries, that are really killing our small businesses and raising costs for everyone. Like reversing these the one big bad bill crazy tax cuts for the wealthy that very few local people are going to benefit from. And you know, they're also coming at the cost of 30,000 Kama'aina losing their health care and cuts to public education. You know, I don't understand what world we're in where making more room for the wealthy at the cost of cuts to education makes any sense. You know, we can do better. We can do different things like bringing in federal investment for our infrastructure so that we can be resilient to climate change. Like bringing in investment for our emerging industries so that our kids don't have to leave elsewhere for more opportunity. It's time to focus on things that matter to us here in Hawaii. And that's what I want to do. Because like my mother taught me, we're supposed to help people in this job. That's our job, to help people. In my work in the legislature, I've tried to help people. I've tried to listen and make people feel like they're being heard and they're being counted. You know, when COVID happened and you couldn't get into the legislature, I led a live stream project to put every hearing and vote online so that people didn't have to come in to participate in their process. After the Maui wildfires hit and we realized that it was very difficult to understand what they needed out in Lahaina in the community, and it was hard to expect people who had lost their homes and cars to come to Honolulu to sit, we had a field hearing. We went out to Lahaina and we heard from people. You know, this seat in Congress, again, is about more than just taking votes. It's about more than bringing things into Hawaii. It's about making sure people feel like they're a part of the process. It's about making sure that this seat in Congress is about Hawaii's place in the world and making sure that people from Hawaii have a say in that. And it's not just our future is not being dictated to us by someone 5,000 miles away who's never been here and doesn't care about us at all. I ran for office because I didn't like the way things were going. And I decided not to wait for someone else to fix it. Like my father taught me, you know, if you really want something done, you gotta take responsibility for it yourself and get in there and fix it. And you'll be surprised how many people come along or are already in the work that you can just join in on. So today I ask all of you to join me in this next step. Today I'm declaring my candidacy for Hawaii's 1st Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives. And starting today, we're going on a 90-day listening tour across House Congressional District 1. Please go to jarrettforcongress.com, that's 2 R's and 2 T's, jarrettforcongress.com, and take our survey. We want to start a conversation with people. We want to hear your hopes, your worries, your dreams for the future of Hawaii. So please engage with us. We'll be going around and talking to people, and we want to hear you. It's time for change. Our kids demand it, our future requires it, and together we can make it happen. I'm Jarrett Keohokalole, and I humbly ask for your support. Mahalo, and let's get to work. Thank you, everyone.
Anyone who wants to be in the photo, come up. Jarrett and the family will have you folks here in the center. Jacob, we're gonna follow you. Okay, as tightly as possible. If we can get everyone in the photo.
Turn off that mic. I guess not for now.
I got it.
Thank you.
Do you want me to turn this off?
No, just take it.
Governor.
Wow.
Which one is who? Get three of us over here.
Everyone get as close as you can. Yeah.
This yours. This must be mine. Sorry, guys. Are any of you gonna need Jarrett for sound?
I would like to, yeah, if I can.
Yeah, this is gonna come grab you.